Today, the Supreme Court took up the debate of our time, the rights of parents versus teachers in schools, specifically whether schools can force kids to learn about some rather adult stuff at a very early age, all in the name of inclusion. The case centers around some pretty wild books taught in kids to kindergarten. Born Ready, the true story of a boy named Penelope. Love Violet, a romance featuring two young girls. Uncle Bobby's Wedding, about a gay wedding. Pride Puppy, about a puppy lost at a pride parade looking for things. Some very interesting things, I might add. Prince and Knight, a romance between two boys, and Intersection Allies, which has a gender-fluid character. Those books were or are currently used in Montgomery County, Maryland. It's one of the big, rich school districts around D.C. Here is just one exchange between Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch and lawyers for the school district.
Pride Puppy was the book that was used for the pre-kindergarten curriculum. That's no longer in the curriculum.
That's the one where they are supposed to look for the leather and things and bondage, things like that.
It's not bondage. It's a woman in a leather.
Sex worker, right?
No.
No?
That's not correct. No.
I read it.
It's a drag queen and drag
queen and drag
correct.
queen.
The leather that they're pointing to is a woman in a leather jacket, and one of the words is drag queen in the search.
And they're supposed to look for those.
It is an option at the end of the book.
Things you never thought you would hear at the Supreme Court. Probably Neil Gorsuch didn't think he was going to hear that either. Back in 2022, Montgomery County School mandated LGBTQ-inclusive storybooks for elementary schools. Many parents didn't want their kids in those classes or being taught that, so they opted out. Rather than just end the practice of using all of these books, the school ended opt-out. With us now, former ACLU President Nadine Strossen. Professor, welcome back. It's good to see you as always.
Good to see you too, Leland.
Fact, and I'm trying to figure this out because this is a religious liberties case because there were a lot of very religious families, both Christian and Muslim, who said, this infringes on our religious liberty. We don't want our kids seeing this stuff, taught this stuff at a young age. Why is that an issue for a school district? Because the school district has opt-out. So many parents say, we want our kids out. Wouldn't the obvious thing be to end the practice rather than ending opt-out?
This is a very fact-specific issue, Leland, and one of the challenges with this case is that the Supreme Court took it at a very early stage, so we really don't know all of the factual details. But yes, if it's a matter of a few individual students opting out specifically because of religiously based disagreements, that's the only constitutional issue at stake here, right? That you can't just say, I don't think this book is appropriate, I don't like it for other reasons. You have to specifically show that being exposed to the book violates your religious beliefs. I think that's a hard showing to make, but if a parent can make that showing, their individual child should be excused. As I understand the facts that are alleged by the school district, they became subject to so many complicated opt-out requests, not from specific classes, not from specific lessons, but essentially requiring them to remove the books altogether, not to even have them accessible for kids to look at voluntarily, shelved on the library shelves. And that's a different matter, because it's one thing for a parent to say, my own kid shouldn't be able to look at the book, right, but not to force the school to take an action to deprive other kids of the option to look at it.
No, and I think that may be the middle ground here, right? Which is what exactly is being required of the schools.
If I can say so, Leland, you know, there's been a lot of complaints from my friends to the right of center in recent years that, oh, so many snowflake students and parents were complaining that they were uncomfortable as a result of being exposed to certain ideas or viewpoints, beliefs that they found to be offensive. And now the tables are turned, right? It's more conservative parents that are raising the same objection. And
I never remembered, forgive me, I spend a lot of time covering these issues. I don't go back as far as you do in them. I don't ever remember people complaining on the left about books in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade. I guess the bigger question is, What's wrong with, and I made a list of some of my favorites, Make Way for Ducklings, Good Night Moon, Are You My Mother, Knots on a Counting Rope, Paddington Bear. We could do all this and everybody lives, and if parents want to have their kids read biblical storybooks, fine. And if parents want to have their kids read Pride Puppy, great. And the schools just teach, you know, look at what an apple is.
Yeah, but what's important, Leland, is that these books are not being used to teach about gender or sex issues. They are just there as part of the reading curriculum. And that's why I disagree with the way that you presented the case when you said kids are forced
I just want to play. I hear you.
They
I
are
want
not
to play.
forced to read it.
I want to play something for you, and I think this may sort of circle back. Randy Weingarten, president of one of the large teacher unions, she and I have tussled before on this show. Take a listen.
The moment you have a case like this with such great distrust for what is being taught in a classroom or read in a classroom, I consider that a failure from the beginning. And I say this as someone who is a gay person who understands that we have to actually make sure that families are respected and families are safe and kids are safe, and that differences are acknowledged and differences are embraced.
Just to get you past the law for 1 second, from Vox, very liberal publication, the Supreme Court's Don't Say Gay argument went disastrously for public schools. Are we at a point where perhaps public schools went so far in terms of their prerogative of these kinds of books for such a young age, and they were required for a number of kids, that the backlash, hold on, let me just finish the question, that the backlash to it from the Supreme Court, because we all heard the arguments, it did not go well for the public schools. The backlash is going to actually hurt the very thing at the core that the public schools wanted to do.
Well, I disagree with what you're saying about the facts. So why don't we just stick to the principles? One principle is absolutely clear, and that is no school at any age level, no matter what curricular material it's using, should indoctrinate students. The purpose of schools is to educate, not to indoctrinate. So schools should neither indoctrinate in so-called woke ideology or anti-woke ideology. They should train students to think critically for themselves. And I think that's a process that can and should begin at the earliest ages. A second principle, Leland, is nobody should be forced to do anything that would violate their deeply held religious beliefs. So nobody, even at the youngest age, should be forced to affirm a belief that is contrary to their own religion.
I agree with you on all that.
They're not being asked to do that. They're simply
I wonder about common sense beliefs, but that's not a court of law. That's a political argument, which I think is where probably maybe this case belongs. Professor, I always wish we had the whole show. Sometime you and I are going to have a podcast. We can go through all of this. It's good to see you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Leland.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.